All right, we're going to start in 2 minutes here, folks. Just need to put some stuff up. All right, folks. It's 10 o'clock p.m. And once again, it's me. It's that VINCE. It's the beginning of the month. College football's winding down. NFL football's winding down. The weekend's coming up, people. You made it through all 5 days. Now it's time to chill back and relax for the weekend. And I'm glad you came up here to start your weekend right by hanging out with the great one on the Midnight Run. Now, it's going to be a little light today. A lot of people tuned in to the Wednesday show that I had, but there is a whole lot of people streaming today. A whole lot of people that are live streaming, but that's all right. If you're here, I definitely appreciate you being here. So the first thing I'm going to do is, as always, I'm going to let you know what I'm drinking and smoking. I have the Woodbridge Merlot. I have espresso coffee and cold fresh water. And today I have a Perdomo. Let's see, which one is this that I pulled out? Oh, this one here is a Perdomo. Lot number 23. It's pure Nicaraguan tobacco there. Not like the last cigar I had. I was going to smoke a curly head, but felt like reaching in for the good stuff. I haven't placed my order for any new cigars lately. I'm just having trouble picking right now. So tell me, folks in the chat room, what are you people drinking and smoking? So let's see what we got here. Cold C is with the Pinot. All right, that's what I'm talking about here. Yes, I've had Steel Reserve before. It's all right there. I have my general taste on things here in particular. So, Yep, lot to talk about today here. Yeah, that's why I played that song. I meant to do that last week, but I had forgotten there. I knew I had a copy of the remix somewhere, and I had it on my computer. So I figured I'd go ahead and play it here. So, Haldral, okay. Brandy with some Diet Pepsi, okay. Trying to get drunk and keep the carbs away. Yeah, I heard that there. All right. As always, if in case you've not been here before, feel free to ask me any question that you wish. You are not required to give any donation for me to answer a question. But if it's always a good thing if you drop a little money in the collection plate. If not, if you don't want to do that, that's fine. Just hang out with me. Grab your smokes. Grab your drink. Hope you're slipping on some Alizé. I don't care. You just do what you got to do you. You know what I mean? It's the weekend. So, folks, it's time to light up. And as always, here comes the blue light, people. So, excuse me, blue flame. So let's toast it up a little bit. All right, that's nice and toasted. Oh, someone's got the eggnog. I knew someone was going to say they had eggnog there, so. Drinking lemonade, Mio, smoking Marlboro Lights and marijuana. So, are you going back and forth with the cigarettes and the marijuana, or just doing them both, or do you have both of them in your mouth at the same time here? Nicotine patch, you're trying to give up the smoking habit. Well, I definitely applaud you on that there. Truly hard lemonade. Okay. How you doing there, Kaizen? Welcome to the midnight run. Like I said, a lot of people are streaming tonight. I'm not sure why. I mean, whole bunches of people. They must have just got a hold of my schedule and everything. So, and of course, actually, folks, I did speak with Aaron Singerman this afternoon. I was going to make that announcement here, so you've heard it first. Aaron Singerman is out of prison. I went and spoke with him. I just welcomed him back, basically. Right now, he's going to be spending some time with his family. Obviously, he's been locked up, even though it's been 9 months there. When you're away from family so long and you've been in prison, you want to spend a lot of time with your family. So, it's going to be at least a couple days to a week before anyone else hears from him there. So, but Aaron's doing just fine. He's great. He's happy to be back home there. So. Water and Colombian coffee, sugar-free peppermint creamer. How you doing, Andrew? I'm doing great tonight there. Been busy all day. I was redoing a website. I just had the logo created for it, so went and slapped it together here. So. Lake, it doesn't matter if I'm the only one live streaming, and that's happened before to where I only had 2 people live streaming. It doesn't matter. You have to remember there's a start to everything. When I started this channel, I had 0 subscribers, everything starts from here. I have a very small channel, but it's sort of like the U.S. Marines. I'd rather have 2 piss troopers than 30,000 cookie cutters, Just keeping it real with you. So if there's 2 piss troopers just listening on my channel, I'd rather have that than 3,000 cookie cutters, Yeah, it's been a long news week, all right. Liver King exposed. Everyone knew Singerman was going to be released anyway there because, they posted on the website as far as when anyone's being released. Yes, I was watching football on Fox there, Andrew, but, I got to do the show. I got to look out for you folks. So I guess I'll get the score later on, Got to take care of my peoples, Aaron's going to explain everything next week as far as to what happened there. You got to give him, if it takes a week or 2 weeks, that's perfectly fine. He's been in prison for a while there. So let's let him hang out with his family for a bit. He'll come out whenever he wishes to come out, You'll be hearing from him soon, but he's happy to be out there. That I can tell you. So. New gym is in a huge space and has 2 benches. Oh my God, really? Just 2 benches? Well, I mean, that's the way it is. There, a lot of these gyms are trying to attract people that don't really have any interest of working out. It's like Planet Fitness. They have pizza on Wednesdays and stuff like that. It's now all marketable. Las Vegas was a lot better when the mafia controlled it. Once they stopped controlling it, they're all nothing more than hedge funds, and they have pirate ships and stuff like that. It's all goofy, But the long days of, when people like, Jack LaLanne was running gyms and stuff like that, it's over with, folks. Jamie, why would you want to see the BBC for? I mean, I'm American. This isn't the British. This isn't a British channel. There, you'll have to go to Dr. Rackpools. Where's Jay Masters? I spoke with Jay Masters yesterday. Actually, he just hadn't. I guess he hasn't decided to put on a video there because he asked me about why I went off on conservative Cuban. And folks, I'm going to explain this again here. Conservative Cuban has no place in the fitness industry. He's not a power lifter. He's not a bodybuilder. He's not a fitness expert. He's not a drug dealer or anything like that. He's not a trainer, coach, or anything, So, I mean, I don't mind if Jay Masters or Big Lenny talk about me, or even John Romano, because they're in the industry. Conservative Cuban simply isn't there, And that's what really pisses me off more than anything else here. Anyone that is speaking about other bodybuilders and has no participation in this industry, period. That, and he's been talking a lot of shit about me for the past couple weeks there. I had to put him in check, It's fine to talk about me there, but you're not going to go and build your channel on my chops there, not without me saying something. Chances are, if you wanted me to guess, there's a lot of programs that you could participate in prison in order to knock down your sentence there. But again, he's back with his family. It may be a week or 2 weeks before he speaks with people. And he's got to be, and I told him he needs to be really careful on doing any interviews because some people are not going to have his best interest. But it'll be a while before, you probably hear from him, to be honest with you. It's good. You get out of prison, you want to spend time with your family, 55 degrees. I mean, that's not too bad, actually. I've trained in 20-degree weather before, and that's not fun at all. You got to put on gloves, otherwise your fingers will freeze there. So. Reading comments here. No, Big Rob is still running around. He's just not making videos. But believe me, I always keep tabs on people. He's fine. Genova is locked down there, Andrew. You won't be seeing them for a while, especially after doing that interview with John Bravo. And I had to yell at him a little bit for doing that because he knew he was going to get him in trouble. Conservative Cuban's a cookie cutter. I don't, that's what I don't like so much there, is... Does anyone, I would have more respect for Cuban if he actually went and worked out with Jay Masters, did some lifting with them, or Big Lenny or so forth. Just do something that's fitness related there. But just at least something that we can actually see, No, it doesn't. Smoking cigars is just smoking cigars. It's for relaxation there. That's why this is the midnight run. We're starting the weekend there, you gotta relax, enjoy yourself. And I enjoy it. I love having a nice cigar or brandy, or in this case, some Merlot, Sometimes I may not always have the best cigar and I may not always have the best brandy. But at the end of the day, it's all about spending time with your friends and hanging out and just having fun. Because, like I said, life is not a rehearsal, people. You only get one, so enjoy it. "21 and counting." Not sure what you mean by that there. You'll have to be more specific there. So I'm not going to sit down with Cuban there. He just needs to fuck off. I heard about Pantera touring. I mean, I would say there was some sort of contractual dispute, if anything, Deedle. Uh, anytime you have any replacements or so forth, that may affect tickets or everything, but it's still Pantera anyway. So, I'm kind of mixed on that situation. Most people don't keep up with heavy metal, but I do. Like I said, I'm big on that there. I don't, so because this is a bodybuilding and fitness channel, I don't get too many questions about heavy metal. I wish I would get more, but, it is what it is, so. Well, I mean, most prisons just have general weights and stuff like that. I mean, they're not going to have fancy machines. It's usually going to be all free weights here. Now, in a jail, however, there's absolutely no weights here, so you have to just do push-ups and pull-ups and stuff there, and just make do with what you got. But most prisons are going to have free weights because essentially put, free weights don't require that much maintenance as opposed to a cable machine. Not only that, no one wants to rip off a cable and start whipping people. Although you can get clobbered with the weight itself there, you know. But it's more or less about maintenance here. Just if you're in the yard, you just need to keep your mouth shut, or just don't be out there if you're one of those people that makes trouble there. It's always best if you go to prison, just keep to yourself and keep your mouth shut. And don't gamble. Whatever you do, people, don't gamble in prison. Just don't. It's a very bad idea. Only drank a fifth. Oh, vodka. I know you're doing well, so. Quick pump. I don't think John Bravo's really spoken about Big Rob lately there. But you have to remember both of them are Arab there. You know what I mean? So they have a mutual combativeness there because they're from the same countries and stuff like that. Technically, so. What's my favorite power tool brand? Well, I worked at Lowe's, so I always had a favoring to DeWalt there tools. That's what I keep in my kitchen. But I don't do much maintenance work other than maybe tightening a couple screws around the house or so. Oh, be clean there, Jamie. Be clean. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's watching my Tan 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 live stream from October, but so have a lot of other people, so. No, white wine is if you're having seafood. Red wine is if you're having beef or a medium cigar. Different alcohol goes with different things here. But for white wine, it goes well. You're supposed to drink it with any seafood, for example. Or usually I'll have a white wine with lobster bisque there. Well, if you like vaping, then vape. I don't have an issue with anyone vaping, Andy. It's just not my generation, essentially. I mean, there's people at my age that are vaping, but, I'm pretty much old school. I like cigars, and, I have a tobacco pipe as well. I don't usually do that on a live stream because it has pipes take a lot more maintenance as opposed to a cigar as far as keeping lit. I'm not sure if Pug is here. I haven't seen him as of yet, but like I said, that's what channel replays here. I always definitely appreciate him donating to the channel there. But if he's busy, that's fine. I'll still send him a shout out for everything, and hopefully if he does miss the show, he can tune in and do the replay and hear that shout out. Let's see here. Oh, and speaking of which, Pugman just popped in. Hey, Pugman, what's going on there? See, I made that big old speech all for nothing there, but that's the way this scroll down thing works here. So, by the way, Deedle, don't call someone a sugar daddy. I know John Bravo uses that term a lot there, but that's not a nice thing to say. Yeah, Nate's still doing videos. All right, Aaron Lewis there. Yep, that's what I call enjoying life there. It's been a while since I've gone to any concert there. Maybe I might catch the Pantera since they're playing. Well, it's going to always depend. Like I said, they got those replacements, as you mentioned. Computer Man, my point on that video that I made was not that Vegan Gains didn't win the debate or anything like that. The issue is that he was going and yelling blah, 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 blah. Now, here's the problem with that. And folks, you got to understand, when you're winning a debate, the last thing you want to do is still make a fool of yourself. He should have just let him trip over his tongue instead of speaking over him, because generally speaking, the audience is not going to hear him stumbling there. I can hear him stumbling in the background, but most other people couldn't there, He should have just waited and just let him hang himself by his own tongue there. So, yeah, he would. And like I said before, I said Vegan Gains was right. Maybe I should have. I think I made the mistake of not mentioning that there. But the point of my video was just the way that he was generally acting there. He made himself look bad. I mean, Zen Shapiro was already looking bad, not knowing whatever this alt gate is. Alt gap. I mean, I have a gap tooth. I don't know what an alt gap is here, to be honest with you. But, they like using big college school words and stuff like that. But, when someone's hanging themselves by a thread, the last thing you need to do is jump in and tie a rope around your neck as well, which is what Richard did. He should have let him shut up. He should have shut the heck up, let him stumble a bit, and then let the audience decide. And they would have decided that he didn't know it there, So that's my whole point of that video to begin with. It had nothing to do whatsoever with him winning the debate. And at no point in time did I say that he lost the debate there. Well, I mean, sometimes, Jamie, people are going to bring up a person that's relative to a conversation there. I mean, John Bravo and Big Rob don't like each other, And eventually you'll see some conversation that breaks out with them there that, even you're not going to understand. It's going to blow up one of these days. I've never ran into any celebrities at the Swordfish, so I guess I'm the only celebrity there. Yes, I've drunk mead before. There was like a medieval festival in Sylva, North Carolina, and they were fixing some mead. But yeah, that's some real old school stuff there. But I don't mind any old school stuff. I mean, it's alcohol. You can get drunk from mead, so. That's what I'm talking about, Fernandez. Yeah, if Cuban jumps into this conversation, I'm going to chew him out again there. Raw, what's up? Welcome to the Midnight Run. You're here a little late there, but that's all right. It's only been 20 minutes here, so I'm glad you're ready to party. I mean, it's the weekend. We got a lot of college football coming up there, so gonna love it here. Robert, I told Bakuzi to just plead guilty, and I told him that for the past year or two, and Bakuzi didn't plead guilty, If Bakuzi had pled guilty in the very beginning, he would have gotten no time. Absolutely no time, just probation. But he decided to plead the thing all the way out to being guilty for no reason. That's why he got hit with that sentence here. And everyone tried to tell him. John Romano tried to tell him. Dave Palumbo, me. Everyone told him just to plead guilty, because he didn't own the company. There was no reason for him to go to prison. He would have got the same sentence as everybody else here besides Aaron and PJ. There was no reason for him to go to prison. So, Muay Thai, Fernandez. Yes, I've been in plenty of mosh pits here. That was a big thing in the 90s there. I'm not sure. I'm sure they still do mosh pits, but that's kind of old school there, so. Exactly, Cold C. He should have just let him speak there or stutter, and it would have hit him a lot harder than him yelling over him. See, no one could hear him stuttering there, so he almost was able to get away with it, Again, my video had nothing to do with him losing the debate. It just had to deal with him speaking over him. He should have just let him hang himself by his own shoelaces. I didn't catch Kali Muscle's video yesterday. I've been kind of busy there. I'll probably check it out tomorrow when I'm in the gym and on the cardio. Sure. Look, folks, here's my whole thing there. Mike O'Hearn, for the most part, isn't making money off claiming that he's natural. I mean, everyone knows better or so forth. I just don't see the general pursuit of it there. I generally ignore this natty or not stuff, with the exception of Liber King, because he made millions off of it there. So. And he kept going live and kept denying it there, despite the fact that it was obviously true. So, and of course now he's saying that it was under a doctor there. So, but he's messed up. Pugman, thanks again for the donation. I did have one roommate. His name was Nard. When I went to ITT, I didn't want a roommate, but. He didn't have a good credit history because he was so young, and even though I was only, 22 at the time itself, I had AAA credit there, because I've had a job since I was 14. He ended up trashing the house, and I had to pay $300 in repairs, and he never paid me his last rent there. But since I was the main signer of it, then I was responsible for the apartment. So never again, Pugman. No more roommates unless we cutting. Unless he's, the only roommate I'll have, if that's necessary, he'd better be taking it up the ass from me there. Just keeping it real and telling it to you like it is here. So if he ain't taking it up the ass, he ain't going to be a roommate of mine. So. What's the most amount of alcohol I've had in a single night? On a dare, I did like 3/4 a bottle of vodka, and I threw up most of the night. I was so sick there. I mean, I literally ruined the whole bed and everything, but yeah, that happened. It was almost a whole bottle of vodka. Not one of those big giant ones there, but yeah, that was that's something I was definitely not proud of. I'm going to be honest with you. He does have a hair system, but again, it's not something I obsess about. You know, he can keep his hair the way he wants to keep it. So that is true, Raw. He does believe that, but like I said before, he's pretty much self-absorbed. There, he just doesn't understand American politics whatsoever. Raw, I mean, everyone has his own style there, you know, and John Bravo's a big Elvis fan, so you know when you look up to someone and you have a favorite person that you want to that you like there, you're gonna have a general you're going to emulate that person in one way whatsoever there. So, but I don't mind him wearing a leather jacket there. I've seen a lot worse. Jamie, PJ is not going to do any longer than 54 months here. He's not going to do 20 years unless he goes and kills someone in prison, which I would seriously doubt there, given where he is. I know he sold duck eggs, and I called him out for that there, Robert. I know. But, you know, as far as Mike O'Hearn is concerned, he's not famous so much as selling nutritional programs. I mean, he does a little bit, but his career is in acting there, as opposed to Liver King, where you know he just sold supplements and stuff. It wasn't so much as media or movie acting. And you know, when it comes to that, Michael Hearn has been in a bunch of stinkers here, sort of like my good friend Bob Ciccarello there. But you know, of course, that's better than me being an extra in a couple of movies. So I think Bravo looks sexy in his. I don't look at him like that. He's just my friend, you know. If someone's my friend, I'm not going to look at someone like that in a sexual manner. It's just not me there, you know. And I'm not chasing any tail there. I've not chased any in quite some time there. When you get older and you've already done everything that you can possibly do to someone, you know, sex wise, there, you know, it's you slow down. In other words, here, just what's up, Athens? How you doing there tonight? Liver King is gonna always get subs here. You know, good media and bad media are the same thing. You know, you're gonna get views regardless. I mean, look at Kyle Rittenhouse. There's a whole world that hates that wants to literally mess him up there. But you know, he's got bad press, and bad press is still good press. You know, so that would be expected by the Liver King. And it's like I said in the video, he wasn't going to lose any of his fans at all. He's still going to have his fans because most people knew he was already doing steroids or so forth. So now that the cat's out of the bag, people are still going to be eating, you know, bull nuts and stuff like that. So bull nuts and spleens. He sure did, didn't he, Kaizen? You know, sometimes you can cover for someone, but that's not a horse you wanted to bet on there. So PJ had a middle class upbringing there, although it is Connecticut there. But he wasn't wealthy or anything like that. The only problem with that, Chucky, is that PJ doesn't really have a drug problem. He's a pretty clean person. But there is programs that he could participate in, but so it just really depends on that. But that's up to PJ. PJ can do whatever he wants to do. I mean, I never got along with PJ. PJ hated my guts there. Last time I spoke with him, we got into a really big argument over. He wanted me to. He was wanting me to back his play when Aaron left Blackstone to Redcon 1 because I was still somewhat slightly involved in that whole situation there. And I told him I was going to side with my buddy Aaron there. I wasn't going to side with him, so. I speak to Bob once a month or so forth there. I'm not sure what you mean by that there. Just because I speak to someone doesn't mean I go and announce it to the world. There's a lot of people I talk to on a regular basis. I talk to Dave. I talk a lot to John Bravo. I talk to Will Brink. Maybe Lonnie Taper or so forth. A lot of us generally have conversations here. Sometimes I'll see what Sean Ray's up to there. So, I mean, it's a matter of messaging, and it's a lot easier because, 20 some years ago, I would actually have to write them a letter and so. Well, there's a lot of black people in bodybuilding too there, Duran. So that can be said for something like that. But I mean, I guess it's that Jersey Shore type mentality that everyone wants to work out there, Bodybuilding is a fitness oriented type thing. And, when it comes to Italians, they do like to keep in shape in order to fit in clothes. If you go to Italy, for example, from what I understand, that's one of the biggest fashion capitals around. So in order to fit in all that fashion clothing, you have to stay in shape. You can't have a big giant gut sticking out or so. No, Robert, it's not based on that. Liver King, and it's just like it said in his emails. It was basically just to support his brand. And guess what? It did work. He made millions off of taking all that juice. So I would consider that almost an investment. Protein, just about every man watches porn, and I'm no different there. Uh, I mean, as far as a genre is concerned, I mean, I'm gay, so I mean, you figure that one out there. So, yeah, he was burning 11,000 a month there. The doctors was literally ripping him off. I mean, he had all that HGH, and then he has these growth hormone releasers and stuff like that. You know, I mean, the doctors just fed him a lot of BS there. He could have done everything. He could have gotten everything that he had for maybe a fourth of what he would have been spending. He just wasn't knowledgeable, and when he reached out to people, they just went and took advantage of him just to sell more garbage. Well, it all depends there, Chuck E. Cheese there. The biggest thing is PJ would have had the willingness. And the thing about it is that we don't know whether he has taken any drug programs. There's no telling what PJ is doing in prison right now. So he may be on the drug program or so forth, but if he isn't, like I said, it's something that he has to desire doing. And that's the biggest thing. Yeah, Matt probably does barf it up after the video there. Of course, there's a lady that, like Carrie, does kilos, and she's a former bodybuilder, and she eats a ton of food too. So, I mean, it's possible there. Well, Athens, just because you take a bunch of roids doesn't mean you're going to have a great physique there. It just doesn't work like that. It's all about genetics here. And in fact, all the stuff that he was taking probably hindered his gains here. He could have looked a lot better, in fact, for 1/4 of what he was taking. He just didn't have the right protocol, obviously. And he was getting his stuff from someone that just simply wanted to sell him stuff. Doesn't matter if it's a doctor or not. There's a lot of crooked doctors out there. Aaron Baker, Batman. I have not spoken to him in over a decade, actually. Not sure what he's up to, but it's been over 10 years since I spoke to Aaron Baker. Well, Robert, that's for IFBB Pro Professional Bodybuilding. When you go to, and remember, I competed in my last show was an NGA show. When you go to the NGA and WNBF and IMBF shows, you have a particular different look there. They're not everyone's going to be big and giant or anything. So, but that's just for IFBB Pro Bodybuilding because that's the way it is. No, Chuck E. Cheese. He didn't have shit genetics there. He was just on a bad protocol. That the protocol that was created, the intention wasn't to help him so much, but basically for someone to line their pockets. Athens, that's quite believable. He was rich. He is correct. He was rich before anyone ever heard of him there. And I can see him making $100 million a year. I mean, think about Rich Gaspari there. The Gaspari Nutrition was just making hundreds of millions of dollars there. It was making hand over foot there, in other words. And Liber King's brand is quite popular. So, and plus there's a high resale value because, he was selling organs and stuff like that. I sold that stuff for vitamin power. And let me give you an example. When I was a regional distributor for Vitamin Power, Buffalo Pancreas, for example, or liver tablets there, they would be, well, let's take liver tablets since that's more understandable. 300 pills of liver tablets would run about $8. Liver King was selling them for like $40 or $50 here. So he has a high markup. And with that high markup means that he's going to make a lot more money there, In fact, that may have been the whole premise behind this whole ancestral stuff. Just because when you sell parts like that and have it dried up into pills or so forth, and you sell it for a high price there, then you're going to make some money. What he was basically selling, what his product line is essentially, he was selling it for 4 times what everybody else was selling it for. Yeah, Aaron Baker loved the dress there. Some shows don't actually allow it there. It just really depends. You got to get the promoter's permission to do so. I liked Amy Winehouse's music, but it's pretty tragic as far as to what happened to her life there. How many calories can you consume in a single day? A better question would be how many calories can you absorb in a single day? I would honestly say that you can get in 10 to 12,000 calories there, but most of it's going to come out your ass there. So, as far as absorption is concerned, I think you can only absorb maybe 120% of your caloric intake. I think that's going to be the most you can absorb. Plus, you have to work out pretty heavy as well for you're going to need your body has to be in a position where it wants those calories. Yeah, that's his genetics there, Raw. You know. Uh, well, no, the GH didn't work on his midsection. He had what's called ab etching. That's a surgical procedure where it removes the fat around the abs. That's why whenever he walks, his abs still look the same. Normally, when you're walking, your abs are supposed to move around or disappear. His doesn't. It's pretty clear that he's had ab etching surgery. I don't think Genova. I'm not aware of Genova making a video with Liber King. Transform X. He that was a YouTuber that posted a lot of Delray Misfit stuff there. I'm not sure if he's doing that or has he changed his name or not though. I always liked him there, so. I mean, Mark has already admitted to using anabolic steroids here, and I mean he's an IFBB pro, so there's no way for him to lie about it. So, but I doubt that he's selling any steroids because his Tiger Fitness brand is pretty popular. So, when you're already a millionaire, why go sell steroids for? I mean. Maybe I shouldn't have really said that. I take that back. But Mark isn't selling any steroids. I'm pretty sure of that. Deadlifts are essential for the back. If you're wanting to build a strong back, then you want to do deadlifts as well as the back thighs there, you know. Deadlifts are an awesome exercise. Well, Kaizen, let me give you a little background. Bodybuilding.com had a contest one time as far as the most popular bodybuilder. And the person that got the most votes was Genova. But bodybuilding.com was embarrassed, so they awarded it to somebody else here, you know, and didn't left him off there. And the piss troopers went ape shit over the channel, messed up the forms and everything until they finally gave him his just due. So yeah, Jason Genova is was very popular. You should look that up sometime. But yeah, piss troopers ran wild on that forum. That's for sure. Once they did Jason dirty. But a magazine publication did the same thing with one of Howard Stern's Whack Pack members. I think it was the Angry Dwarf or so forth. So that was pretty much a similar situation there. Well, pink is a common color that's worn in Miami there. If you walk around Miami, you're going to see a bunch of people wearing pink shirts here. Yeah, Dito, I did see the video. I mean, I had to wash my eyes out with Clorox, if that helps. Yeah. How much does Lobeliner make in a year? He probably puts most of his money back into the company. I would say probably about $1.5 to $2 million a year. I'm 5'11" there, Cold C. Oh yeah, I loved Hank there. That was before Stern went down the toilet there. Yeah, Hank was the man there, that's for sure. You know, a lot of my comedy I actually get from Hank the Angry Dwarf there, so. So a lot of his routines I also use there, as well as Yucko the Clown. Y'all know who Yucko the Clown is, right? So you better. Love that guy. But yeah, Stern has gone down the shitter much less like everybody else's. Yeah, and Beetlejuice is. Yeah, I remember that one. Well, don't forget, I have a pink sweater from Brooks Brothers, and I have a salmon polo. I mean, it's just a general light color, but they wear a lot of pink in Miami. I mean, I guess that's just their thing here. Raw, you're not a porn addict here, folks. Let me let you in on something. There's nothing wrong with surfing porn there. This is what we call instinctive behavior. Human beings, as well as most other animals, are drawn towards having sex there because of propagation there, That's just the nature of things. So never feel guilty about instinctive behavior. If you need to bust a nut and you need to whack off or so forth, uh, you're not a nasty person or anything like that. You're not a goon or anything. You're practicing an instinctive behavior. Now, if you're yanking, however, if you are yanking it for like 5 to 10 times a day or so forth, then you have what's called an addiction. A diction. But no, it's perfectly fine to jerk off twice a day or so forth there, because it's general instinctive behavior. We are drawn to propagate, to make children and stuff. So, yeah. Well, I mean, he was what you call a functional drunk there. Uh, you've never heard of Yucko the Clown Raw? You got to check him out. He go. Let's just say he goes out on the street and gives interviews here. Well, that's a little bit too much information, but I do appreciate your time management there, Deedle. Aziz, you referring to ZZZYZ? Bruh. But don't call him Aziz. Just say ZYZZ. I mean, he had a short life there, but he lived it well there. And that can be said for anything. Lloyd Elves, I've seen him skate before. He's all right there. He, but he's not that well known there. So, I think that with a little bit more time there, he would be great there. He's not a Tony Hawk or anything. But thanks again for the donation. 1989, actually, he's still living there. Like I said, everything that old Z did lives on forever. So he never really died in 2011. He died physically, but he's still alive spiritually. So. Nah, Robert, that's mean there. I mean, I couldn't imagine him being a bodybuilder. So, yeah, Chucky, I warned Jay not to do that. And I told him don't mess with his ex-wife there. Because Shelly's no longer alive there. So yeah, I'm sure Romano probably is pissed at him for doing that. So yeah. Even if it was in good taste there, Chuck, the Shelly thing is pretty much off limits here. So I'm not even when I go on RX Muscle next week. I'm not even gonna so much as bring. That's there are certain things you just don't touch here. That's one of those here, regardless as to whether because it's always going to be interpreted in a negative connotation. Yeah, ZYZZ never really died. Well, who cares what Hytropy thinks here? He's probably jealous that people know him more than he's known. So, well, I explained that at the beginning there, Mike. Conservative Cuban has been saying a lot of stuff about me for months that I've pretty much ignored there. Especially some racist stuff and some homophobic stuff, and I finally confronted him on that situation. But that's one thing. That's a small portion of it. The biggest thing is he has no involvement in the fitness industry. I wouldn't be on his case so much if I saw him lifting with Jay Masters or so forth. Something that is fitness or bodybuilding related there. But he just sits in his car talking junk there with oil cans in the back. I mean, I did call him Wolfman Jack, but now that he's shaved, I guess he looks now like Egon Spangler from the Ghostbusters. Yeah, and it wasn't cool for Big Rob Fitness to bring Romano's kid in there. That's off limits here. So I'd rather be built like Yucko the Clown. Everyone knew Liver King was using steroids there. The thing that people had a problem with is that he was claiming that he was natural. He should have just not said anything. Uh, Robert, I think Kurt James actually banned you, probably not John Romano. Romano's hardly on the forums there. If you're going to be banned by anyone, it's probably going to be Kurt James. Well, he deserved it, Mike, and I was pissed off. So sometimes you got to put people in check. I mean, it's no different than I didn't say anything different than what Big Richard said to Genova there. So I mean, I channeled the inner workings of Big Richard. Let's just keep it like that there. Just type in Sanford and Son remix on YouTube, and you should be able to pull it up. Well, Papa Ace, that's because it's called the Midnight Run. I have to do it at a PM. I don't do the show at an AM time, so. No, Rawl, I wouldn't check his prostate there, so. Perdomos are always going to be great cigars. Perdomo's facilities, there's no machinery that's done. All the tobacco leaves are hard. I mean, they only use oxen actually. So I've not seen the trailer for Cocaine Bear, and most people think that Cocaine Bear is a meme, but essentially, Cocaine Bear is just a bear that died from ingesting a bunch of cocaine that was dropped out of a plane by a well known drug dealer. He hit his head on the tail of the airplane, fell to the ground along with all the drugs. He didn't live. And the bear was stuffed and it's sitting in a little mini museum mall area, and he has a Kentucky hat on with a gold chain. But to make a movie out of it, there, well, but Cocaine Bear died when he ate all that cocaine. So, if there is a trailer, hopefully he has that hat on and a gold chain while he's running rampant. I don't have too many old school series from the 70s. Even though I was born in the 70s, it was 1977, so I would have only been like 2 years old in the 70s there at most. But when I was growing up, obviously my mom had the 8-track player and stuff like that, so listened to a lot of Earth, Wind, and Fire when I was growing up. But yeah, we had an 8-track until the 90s here. But I got a tape deck still in my car, or actually in both of my cars. You mean the one that I played before the midnight? That was the Power Rangers remix. That's been around for like 7 or 8 years. Old school series in general, are you referring to TV or radio? I was thinking that you were referring to music there. So, could you be more specific there, Robert? I'm not sure, Athens. If I go to Delray, it'll be at a time whenever there's a contest going there. I would say probably like the Miami Pro if I was going to go down there. Oh, TV series, Good Times, and The Jeffersons. And of course, uh, yeah. But I also watched other shows, even from the late 60s, like Adam 21. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that before. Well, the Midnight Express it was actually a song, but yeah, I like the Midnight Express. That was an awesome, that was a great idea from Jim Cornette to use that for the ring entrance. But on the other hand, the name of the team was the Midnight Express, so it was only fitting that that theme would be used. But it's actually I'm not sure what the actual name of that song was here. Yes, they are. That's why I still haven't taken mine out, because I can just use a jack and just plug in either a Bluetooth adapter or just plug it up into my phone. Who's the other person, Deedle, as far as to ask him? Oh, I see it here. I would probably take Big Lenny as a roommate as opposed to Jay Masters here. Because then I could yell at Big Lenny to make sure you keep my damn place clean there. Jay Masters would probably fill it with beer cans there. But on the other hand, since Jay Masters is generally a trucker, he would probably hardly be there. So I never watched too much of The Odd Couple. Remember, that whenever I was growing up there, black families watch black shows there. We hardly watched any white shows. That's why that's why I had to get myself a black and white TV so I could watch The Simpsons. Because otherwise, if I hadn't, I would have had to watch The Cosby Show. And those shows used to come on at the same time and compete with each other. And I like The Simpsons more than I like The Cosby Show. But I'm black. Black family, you watch black folks television. So not that I had an issue with The Cosby Show. It was a great show. I just like The Simpsons a lot better. So whenever The Cosby Show came on, I went up to my room, turned on my little black and white TV, and just watched The Simpsons there. And then I turned on my Atari 7800, played a few games on it. So then at midnight, I would watch Are You Being Served in the EastEnders that came on at midnight. But that was my usual Sunday, what I did usually on Sunday. Watch the EastEnders and Are You Being Served around midnight. All right, keep it clean, Beetle. Keep it clean. Well, he's a functioning one there, so. That would be considered a compliment, Robert. One thing about Bookman is at least you knew he had a job, and you know how us. Well, anyway, we'll leave that one alone. But Bookman at least had a job, and he was working. So. We actually had cable for a short period of time, but when times got harder, we just relied on the antenna. So, and up in my room, there was no cable up there, so I definitely had to use an antenna. Would I consider myself a good person? Well, yeah, I would. There's no reason you should ever consider yourself as a bad person there. What really makes a bad person there? You know, you make bad. The only thing is that people make bad decisions, but generally speaking, people are not generally bad per se. People do bad things because of upbringing. Maybe they have a mental condition or so forth. But there's really no such thing really as a good or bad person there. Or there's no such thing as a bad person. There's a reason why someone acts bad for. I mean, you have to remember Hitler was an awful person who killed a whole bunch of people, but and people are wish that they would go back in time to go and kill Hitler as a kid. But remember, he was a child. Everything in regards to his upbringing is concerned. So if I was going to go back in time, instead of trying to kill Hitler, I would actually try to raise him with some actual values there that he would appreciate. And that would have been preventive. Because the truth of the matter is, even if you went back and killed him, there would have been just simply someone else other than Hitler. Oh, you damn right we watch Knight Rider. Like I said, we from a black family, we watch mostly black shows here, but there were some exceptions like Knight Rider, the Dukes of Hazzard. Of course, we watched the A-Team as well. So, oh yeah, I was a big fan of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I had I had all his tapes and everything. And I could play it pretty much everywhere because, Will Smith never cursed or anything. So, I can actually bring his music along in my tape deck and everything. And I wouldn't get yelled at for any cursing music or anything. So, Athens, that's why doors have locks on them there. I would definitely lock the door. Thelma. I didn't watch too much of Hill Street Blues there. Watched a lot of Adam. Did I say Adam 21? I meant Adam 12. And Chips Patrol as well. Vegan Gains has been freaking out a lot lately. Even in debates there, it's just kind of weird there, you know. Everyone has their certain freakouts, even I do, but he's just been doing that a lot there. Not only that, he's been upset at his viewers about them not donating, and Lord knows he gets a ton of donations there he's getting donations like every few minutes or so forth, so he may be just having money issues. Yeah, I know I said that earlier, Robert, there. Must be just blame it on the alcohol, so. But yeah, you're right, it is Adam 12. I did correct myself, though, so. But at least you know what the show is all about there, so. So you were masturbating to Tootie? But no, I didn't really watch much of the Facts of Life or Family Ties. Did watch Growing Pains there. That was a pretty good show. Like I said, we watch mostly black shows as a black family, but there have been exceptions here. You know, the most popular shows are something that's going to be universally liked by everyone, black or white. I watched a few Dragnet episodes here. They're generally pretty good there, but that was well before my time. Adam 12 was sort of too there, but it was just one of those things where they were running a lot of reruns, so I had the opportunity to watch it. Not so much with Dragnet. Now, in early days, as far as Nickelodeon is concerned, I also watched a lot of Mr. Wizard. And of course, you can't do that on television. That was at the time when we did have cable. Especially, you can't do that on television. The Patty Duke show. That's the only show where they took they made a show out of that poor lady who had what is that name there? A bipolar disorder to where she thought she was two different people. So basically, they made a show out of her medical condition to where she was two different people. So, Raw, I can't unflag your question, but I guess it was to. I guess you're talking about Kelly Bundy, I suppose. Yeah, my mom loved Star Trek: The Next Generation, so we did watch that there. You have to remember in the mid 80s, while we watched TV, most of the time we would be out playing basketball and stuff like that. That's when kids used to still go out, you know. So there wasn't so much TV. I would watch TV, but it would be sporadically because as a kid, we were outside playing there. We weren't inside watching TV like everybody else does. Nowadays, everyone stays inside. You don't see any kids playing outside. They're inside watching TV or playing games, video games. That's why kids are so fat these days. Fat and skinny and scrawny and out of shape. Well, don't use Jasmine or Vegan Gains as an example of veganism. At this point in time, the persona of them being vegans is a joke there, can you imagine vegans arguing about other vegans? Well, Raw, I have a wireless home internet, so if I played it in 4K, then it would be pretty slow. I can play it in HD. You're going to make me spit out my cigar with this here, so. Well, they were a lot skinnier whenever they got married, you know. So I don't know what happened there. I guess both of them have been depressed and they do what's called depression eating. Me, I've lost a ton of weight because now that I'm not working at Verizon, I'm not having, company dinners or company get togethers with friends and stuff anymore. Being in prison doesn't boost your testosterone levels, but you do get heightened awareness because, you don't want to drop the soap or anything. Katie's bipolar. And the thing about his disorder is he's saying all this stuff there because he needs help. He needs mental help. And he's gotten it before, but it seems as though that, he's gotten off the medication simply. And people are just letting him do that. But it doesn't matter because he's still got a lot of money. And despite what you hear, Adidas still actually has to pay him for shoes there. They can't just eliminate a $1.5 billion contract. So technically, Kanye West is still a billionaire. I bet it is there, but, I always got to take care of my fans there, Andrew. I can't just go and stop doing my weekly shows because a game is on there, because that wouldn't be fair to you guys here. Besides, I like hanging out with you guys anyway. Having a smoke, having a little fun, answering questions and stuff. That's what this is all about. I'm not like Vegan Gains. I'm not trying to pursue money or anything like that because, I have my websites and everything. It's good that when people donate or so forth, but I'm gonna, even when I'm not doing the show, I would have been doing the same thing anyway. So, and honestly, this sort of takes the place of my company dinners that I had with friends here. I don't think Trump will be running in 2024. He may have announced it, but I doubted he would even win the primary. I would say no, actually, Raw, because even before technology was concerned, there were magazines and stuff like that. A lot of dirty, they had Playboy and stuff like that. The only difference is that it's easier to find out about people. It's more easy accessible, but I think porn addiction or so forth has been around for quite some time there, and people in this day and age like sharing their feelings there, and quite frankly, sometimes you need to keep things to yourself there, It's like I actually got outed there, but honestly, one thing I would never do. Whenever you come out of the closet, it's the same thing as telling your parents, hey, I just want to let you guys know that I like fucking dudes in the ass here. Why? And a lot of, I said that one time too, and a lot of gays and lesbians got mad at me for saying it, but that's exactly what you're doing, right, folks? If you're coming out of the closet, you're just telling your parents that you're fucking other dudes and stuff in the ass there or something, or basically. Why would you announce to your parents who you're fucking there? Basically, doesn't. I've never seen the point of coming out of the closet. If they ask, then just be honest with them. I don't bring that stuff up with my mom. We had a situation like that and we just leave it alone there, That's perfectly fine with me. I want to spend time with my mom, watch westerns or so forth. I don't need to be discussing who I'm humping there, or so forth. But I guess that's the new age there. Everyone wants to come out and explain things, and then you gotta try to figure out what people's pronouns are, and stuff. That stuff gets kind of confusing, especially with genders, folks. There are only two genders, you know. But I can't say that around the LGBT community. Well, I've actually said it before, and I've got myself in a lot of trouble there. So that's a time where you just gotta keep your mouth shut on things like that. But I think now the count is up to like 102 different genders, according to the left. Raw, I don't really like bringing up that type of stuff, but you're talking about porn addict, so I always have to bring in uh stuff there, essentially. But yeah, well, we're all animals at the end of the day, there, Pugman. But thanks again, as always, for the donation there. But yeah, we're all animals at the end of the day. So the question is, what type of animal are you? Are you gonna be a little? Are you gonna be a bear, or are you gonna be a grizzly? This is one of the cigars, by the way. The good thing about Perdomos is you can almost smoke them to the tip. Well, just because someone's gay, Chuck, doesn't mean that they can't have children there. They can drop their baby, they can drop their jizz in a test tube there and freeze them and impregnate a woman with them there. So, I mean, no, there is only, like I said, there's only two genders. That's it. Now, in the animal kingdom, there's actually three because you have, creatures that are asexual. So, but as far as human beings are concerned, I've never seen an asexual human being. And of course, this time I accidentally just bumped it down, that's bad etiquette here. Liver pills work, veganism. I use amino acid tablets here. And that's especially helpful since I don't eat as much meat as I used to. So I'll take liver and amino acid tablets here. I like steak too. Well, I definitely buy you a drink at the Swordfish anytime there, Pugman, because like I said, you're a big contributor to the channel there. Biggest contributor I have to the channel. Again, I definitely appreciate you donating to it there. So, but yeah, if you're ever in Asheville, I'll take you down to Swordfish there. We won't be taking long hot showers at night or so forth, but I'll introduce you to the bartenders, tell you the menus, and pick out the best drink for you there. How about that? So, Kaizen, if someone wants to do all of that, as long as it's in moderation there, you know. Some people play video games for way too long, for hours on time. I could never do that. Even when I had video games, after 2 or 3 hours, my eyes start hurting. Are the super trats real? Well, of course they're real. So, well, Pugman's already discussed his stock plans. I would really love to know what his stocks are. I actually put in a trade for about 300 shares of a, what was the name? I can't think of the stock. It started with an A. I did that the other day. And it should bring a good return probably by the end of 2023 with all the recession. It's something that has to do with the recession. I can't think of the trade right now. I put it in on E-Trade, but it's something someone told me about. But I mean, at the same time, because even though I've left Verizon, I still get a bonus in about a couple of months here. And I still have about 3,000 shares of Verizon stock, so. Shut up, Robert. Shut up. Well, Chuck, I mean, I'm sure that someone listening in is probably can beat off on it there, if they have some weird issues or so. Can't see how there, but I know they definitely do it on Vegan Gains' channel, because if you listen to some of the donations and stuff like that, they be saying some weird things up there, just really nasty. Mm. Reading comments here. I mean, we're all, honestly, I would like everyone putting in something in the collection plate from time to time there. So, don't worry about what Pugman's donating. He appreciates your channel. I appreciate him contributing to it, because any money that you donate, whether it's $1 or $2, I pretty much put it back into the channel itself, because my source of income is my websites and, my e-commerce there. Everything else I put back in the sites from the studio light. So this is one of the things I bought with the donation. So check this out here. See, now it's darker. Now it's lighter. And I have another camera coming in. So, I mean, I put my money, anything that's donated, I put back into the channel. So. And Andrew, yeah, I will have that once I switch to Streamlabs. I'm going to try that out next week there in order to get the text to speech. Although I'm kind of afraid that people will do that stuff. So I need to make sure that I have a way of cutting that off, because I'm not going to have that happening. My community is golf cart friendly in town. Whenever I golf, I prefer walking, actually, just like at the PGA, and stuff like that. I don't like so much as using golf carts here, unless my legs are hurting. Now, stepdad Billy there, he likes using a golf cart, and my Uncle Clyde actually is a PGA official, so he walks as well there. So I just take after my Uncle Clyde there. He actually had, my Uncle Clyde also has his line of golf. He actually has his own line of golf clubs, yes, there's actually a Goodrum golf club line there. So just a little information for all of y'all here. Raw, I'm not even going to think about that right now. So, I've never heard of Vegan Gains wanting to take steroids, but if he did, if I would take a guess that it probably has something to do with his diet producing poor results here. I would not recommend him taking it. He needs to get back on what he was doing before. Just put the fork down, and stuff, and stop eating junk food. Put the ring light behind my head. It's a clip-on that clips onto my monitor. Johnny, I mean, Jasmine and Richard love each other, I guess, here. If you listen to his live stream, he did say that them two were their only friends there. So, I mean, It seems funny there, Robert, but the thing about it is that it goes on for like 5 or 10 minutes here, and it would really spoil my conversation with you folks here, you know. And I don't want to get it to the, I don't want this channel to get to the point to where I'm just answering questions just to get donations, or just to stop answering questions just to get donations here, you know. When I do a live stream, you know, I want to talk to everyone. I want to answer questions for everyone. I don't want to answer questions to the highest bidder, you know. I mean, that's not fair to everyone else here, you know. And like I said, I never know someone's financial situation or so forth. Some people don't have the money to donate. They got to take care of their kids and their family and stuff like that. So if people want to really support my channel, if they didn't want to donate, just visit my websites, my e-commerce stores. Go to vincegoodrum.com. Go to vincegoodrum.com, click on an Amazon banner, and when you make a purchase with Amazon, you know, I get credit for it there, you know. And that's one thing you can do. If you want to support my channel, you didn't want to donate, when you go make a purchase on Amazon, just go through one of my links on my website, and that actually helps me out just as well. Ankle boot for men. I would recommend probably, you had to ask me that before I got drunk. If you're referring to walking shoes, just get something with a Goodyear welt. I like Thursday boots, actually. That's a good ankle boot there. As far as that's concerned. Well, good for you. Your core blows out of the water there. But I have a pretty strong core. As you can see in some of my exercises, I've been doing raises and stuff, so. I like 2-hour streams there, Andrew. I'm just going to do more streams there, but I'm not going to do 8-hour streams. You have to remember, because I don't answer questions based upon monetary gains. I don't play video games or anything like that. You know, it would get kind of boring after the 2 hours. I like to hit it. I mean, I like doing 2 hours or 1 hour, and then, you know, that way that keeps the channel engaging there, you know. Because if you notice, even though Vegan Gains does it for 8 hours, after 2 hours, he gets tired and he gets grumpy and he gets angry. And I've seen that a lot with other channels here. Vegan Gays and that Demon Mama person, they would do live streams like 7 or 8 hours. That's just insane, you know. Oh, I like Bering. Bering's a funny person. Isaac Butterfield, he tries to be like Joe Rogan there, but he really isn't there, you know. I'm not a fan of his comedy, but Bering, I love watching him there. He literally destroyed Vegan Gains in a debate as well. So that if you should look up, if it's still around, Bering's debate with Vegan Gains, that was crazy. I mean, I got some safety fat, Johnny, but whenever I was competing, I still had a pretty good physique. I just didn't do well because, you know, I simply didn't have the genetics for it. Yeah, probably. I would agree with you on that, Cade. And thanks again for the donation there as well. I definitely appreciate that. Like I said, any donations y'all make go back into the channel as far as improving it. I think so, yeah. I think he did win, so. I have a set of Chelsea boots here. The only thing about Chelsea boots, Raw, is it's really hard to pair Chelsea boots, per se. Because it's at a point to where if your pants are down, if you don't have your pants rolled, if you have your pants rolled up, you can look like a dandy there. So it's hard to match Chelsea boots here, per se, at least in my opinion. The problem isn't that Richard doesn't have a work ethic. I mean, it takes a lot to do those 8-hour streams. The problem is that he just doesn't invest very well. He he takes the easy way out as far as just doing the live streams and doing the OnlyFans. He doesn't have any outside websites. He puts all his eggs in one basket. And eventually that's going to catch up with them. Especially those 8-hour live streams. Well, I mean, yes, he's lazy in a different. I wouldn't say. I just have a different wording as far as to what Richard does. He just does things too easy there. He takes the best way to describe it. He takes the easy way out. He does the same thing every single week there. Goes on his channel. He reviews things and then he goes and plays video games. I mean, but that's what his subscribers want to do, I guess there. So. And that he makes a fool of himself just for money there, A lot of people these days, Kaizen, try to look for the easy way out. I prefer working for things. Like I said, I'm doing my routine or so forth. But, I mean, honestly, chances are in a couple of months, I'll probably pick up another job or so forth. Because while I make enough in order to pay my bills quite easily, at the same time, there's a particular lifestyle that I like to have. I mean, I've had to cut down on things because I'm not working at Verizon. Not only that, working at home, I don't really get that camaraderie I have with the company dinners and stuff like that, which I definitely miss there. So, and I really did like my job at Verizon too there. I mean, it can be frustrating, but it has its own rewards here. Shut up, Lake. Shut up. Of course, obviously YouTube would hide your comments here, but yeah. Collie Muscle does have a good work ethic, but he's just an asshole there, who has no respect for other people, That's what you call someone who is a celebrity per se, or considers himself a celebrity, and he just takes it to another level, to an arrogant matter, to where he thinks he's the most important human being there. And the thing about life is you should always be humble. You should never think you're better than everyone else. Hey, I've made a lot of mistakes in life. I still make mistakes, Nobody is perfect. Don't try to be perfect, people. Just try to be yourself there. You're going to make mistakes in life. You're going to get scammed. You're going to get ripped off. You're not going to always make the right decisions, but that's just part of life, people, Life is about making good decisions and bad decisions, I mean, you try. The best thing you could do is learn from your mistakes. There's mistakes that I've made in the past there that, that I've not made anymore. And sometimes I think about it, and stuff. And people always have those thoughts about bad memories and stuff there, But remember, that was then and this is now. And the only thing you can do is when you make a mistake, it's perfectly fine just to make mistakes. Just don't make it again, Yeah, Collie Muscle is completely nuts trying to do all these mukbangs and all this other stuff again, considering his heart attacks. It's just insane. But again, some people are addicted to the money there, I'm never going to put myself in a position to where I'm going to just do anything for money or so forth. I'd rather, I'd rather work out I would rather, work on roofs. I would rather bag groceries. I would rather unload trucks. And these are all things that I've done. I unloaded trucks at Walmart when I was in Silva. I worked at Lowe's. Unloaded trucks there, rung up people for tools and bolts and nuts there, and stuff like that. It's not a glamorous job, but it's honest work there. And it's important in life, folks, to just simply do honest work. Don't go and pervert yourself by getting an OnlyFans page. It's more than just having a work ethic there. It's more or less having a dignified work ethic there. So, I mean, if you're out there and you got to go and unload trucks, you got to, and you may have the suckiest job out there, at least it's honest work. You're not perverting yourself. You're not selling your body. You're not selling yourself out there. You're a man. You're an alpha. That's what real alphaism is, basically, is doing what you got to do to survive and not undermining your own abilities. Because like I said, once you become like a porn actor, for example, even after you're doing porn there, people are still going to remember. That's why all these teachers are getting in trouble there. And then they're getting outed there. Now, that used to not happen 20 years ago before the internet, but that's the case. A person would go and be a stripper for money in order to pay for college education, and then it comes back on them and they end up getting fired from the school. So it's pretty much a revolving circle on things. Yes, both of them have a lot in common there. Both of them will literally kill themselves just to make $1. And that's kind of sad. You can lump in Vegan Gains along with Kali Muscle and Nicolato Avocado. They're willing to sacrifice their bodies and their personal reputation there just to make money. I'll never do that. I'll go back to Walmart and unload trucks for $7.95 an hour than to put myself in a position to where I am beyond redemption as far as my reputation is concerned. It's like Tony Montana says, all I got is my balls and my word. I don't break them for anyone. So if you're thinking about doing a YouTube channel like myself there, don't do anything just to get views and subscribers or anything. Just do your own thing. And if you got to unload trucks for a living, if you got to pick potatoes out in the field, if you got to go bag groceries or deliver pizzas, at least that's work there. You're not screwing yourself around. Raw, looking at all that, you're probably overworking your chest. You need to, unless you're splitting that up there throughout the week or so forth. But if you're doing all that in one workout, I would highly recommend against it there. In fact, you can end up losing muscle if you're doing all that all at once there, Nicolato Avocado makes a ton of money there. I will give him that. He is a multi-millionaire. But what about his reputation? And what about his own personal health there, He's a lot younger than I am, and he has to have one of those sleeping masks and stuff like that, It's just short-term money there, Raw, I got push-up bars too there, and I keep that in my bin. I think I showed that on a video one time there. The ultimate purpose of doing push-ups is to build the chest there. And as long as you're building the chest, regardless as to whether you're doing push-ups, bench press, or so forth, you're still getting that workout in. Well, blood, sweat, and gears, start your YouTube channel now there. You don't have to wait till next year. Just put a couple videos out there. Doesn't matter how many views you get. Just start somewhere, Everyone starts with 0 subscribers, then you work out from there, A heavy-duty arms workout there. The best way to do those is simply drop sets here, So you get a bicep curl. And it's easier to do drop sets with a machine rather than free weights there. So what you do is you'll get on a biceps machine. You'll do reps until you can no longer do them. Drop the weight, do more reps, drop the weight, do more reps. And believe me, your arms will be engorged with blood there. That's how I built my arms. Well, I'm against abortion. I'm also against youth. I'm not a fan of euthanasia per se. It's euthanasia is kind of different there because there's people that have terminal illness and are in pain every day. So I'm kind of caught behind that there. We definitely need the death penalty there because people are committing so many crimes against nature. There has to be a position of ultimate punishment there for that. But I'm against abortion. Euthanasia, I'm half and half on that. I don't really have too much of a decision there. But the only thing I could say is I can understand someone that has terminal cancer and is in pain and every day and who's going to die anyway, choosing that path as far as euthanasia is concerned. So, you know, and they are adults as well there. It's not like abortion where a baby doesn't have a chance to be born. We're talking, for someone to take euthanasia or assisted suicide, we're talking about an adult that's making an adult decision there, to, more or less protect their family, from watching them suffer and suffer a slow death, basically, Think of 9/11 there. People didn't jump out of the building to commit suicide. They didn't have much of a choice there. That's why euthanasia is like one of those half and half type things. Well, Robert, there is a YouTube calculator, but you have to remember that you have to take the amount you make on YouTube and you also have to pay taxes on it. And you have to consider how much money you spend on equipment there. But I would say he's getting about maybe $1,000 to $2,000 a month on his YouTube channel. Yeah, Johnny, that's because the jury is a bunch of pussies there. Someone that goes and kills 17 people there, that's what the death penalty is actually for someone that does stuff like that. I'm glad I could be of help to you there, Quick Pump. The thing about weightlifting and bodybuilding and stuff like that is you don't need to do a bunch of different exercises there. Mike Metzer, he only did two different exercises a day. That's what HIIT training is all about there, training to complete failure. If you train to complete failure, even with just one exercise, you're going to build muscle there. You don't need to do all these other exercises. You don't need to keep charts or anything like that. Just train till failure and then train some more till even more failure. That's it. That's all you got to do. Honestly, he probably does make money from coaching there. You have to understand, even with he has almost over 100,000 subscribers, so it would be hard pressed for him not to have some people that would actually be dumb enough to actually pay him to do any coaching. But on the other hand, you got to look at it as goofy as Hemingway is there. He is his videos, he is showing training videos and he's actually using real weight, if that says anything, Well, Johnny, I'm a very busy person there. I mean, my main source of income is website design and selling medical supplies there. So, it's hard for me to have time to actually stream every single night there. Like I said, I did start a new stream to where I'm going to be streaming twice a week there, as things get more automated, perhaps there. But for now, I'm always generally short on time there. But we'll see there. Like I said, now I have 2 live streams a week there instead of just one. So, oh yeah, I just made a video, Wally, on vegan gains. Him having that crazy debate there. And like I said, it's not a matter of him losing. It's just simply of him losing his cool there. He should have just let him stutter, instead of just jumping in. That pretty much gave him somewhat of a way out of it. It does get redundant and it doesn't work there. If you do one exercise of training the biceps to complete failure, you've already got the job done. There's no need to go anywhere else here. Wally, none of them deserved to go to prison there. But you have to remember, it wasn't so much as the roids are concerned. It's just the fact that they tried to hide everything and then they fought with the courts for so many years, and that pretty much pisses off the feds. You don't want to piss off the feds there. They had all the information. They had all the emails. They should have just pleaded guilty. Honestly, if they pleaded guilty from the get-go, they would have never had to serve any time. I mean, think about it. Dave Palumbo, he got caught with that GH thing, and he went and he immediately pleaded guilty. What did he do? He did a couple months, and he was out, PJ would have been out right now if he had pleaded guilty from the get-go. So would have Aaron. They would have never done any time. Bakuzi's the one I really feel sorry for because everyone tried to tell him, I'm like, hey, just plead guilty. He's the only one that went all the way, And that's why he got so much time there, And he's gonna do most of that time there. You're not gonna see him for almost that 54 months here. Yes, I would say Vegan Gains somewhat won the debate there, but he lost the audience when he started yelling and being rude and disrespectful there. I mean, he was right. He didn't know what an alt gap was here. If the thing about it is, if I don't know what you're talking about, it's just like when I answer questions on the live stream, if I have no clue what you're talking about, I'm either going to say, please clarify that, or I'm saying, I don't know, That's the problem in life. Some people don't want to admit that they're wrong or that they don't know something. So they'll either make up something or they just wafer. If I don't know what someone's talking about, then I'm going to just tell them directly, hey, I have no clue what you're talking about. I don't know what that is there, It's very simple. There's nothing wrong with it there, We live in a society to where we have to know that people expect someone to know every single question and answer there, When someone asks me about someone's channel and what I think about it, what do I usually say? If I haven't seen that person's channel or so forth, I'm saying, I've never heard of that person. I've never seen that channel. Honesty is best policy there. You don't want to if you don't know something, then just say it there. You don't know something. That's what Zen Shapiro should have done. He says, I don't know what that is there, And that would have been pretty much the end of it. That's how he would have answered Vegan Gains' question. He should have just said, hey, I don't know what this is. Could you clarify, Now, Vegan Gains could have just went on, but folks, most people don't know what an alt gap is here. I don't even know why they're bringing up these school words. They're just trying to sound smart. I never put myself in a position of where I'm some sort of genius or so forth because the thing about it is some people have book smarts, but they don't have any street smarts and they don't have common sense. So I work more on my street smarts and my common sense rather than just ultimately book knowledge. I'm not saying that I don't have book knowledge. I mean, I know how to program computers and everything, but I'm not full of myself, I mean, I'm not big giant. I don't have a big giant brain. I'm not Poindexter or Stephen Hawking or anything like that, when when Vegan Gains doesn't know the answer to a question, he'll go and you'll see him typing on his computer, looking it up there, and he gives you the answer as far as to whatever he looks up on the internet. That's another problem. You never know when it comes to the internet. You may be reading off someone who's a dumbass or just making up stuff there. That's why I prefer. That's why I still have books at home, like Dr. Colgin's book there for perform optimization training. I actually had him sign the book itself there. It's an awesome book there. I'll show you guys on one of my next live streams probably. But if you don't know the answer to a question, don't just try to go and Google it or so forth and then try to make up an answer. It's stupid. Just say you don't know something. He sees himself as that, and he may be, even if he had a high IQ, Robert, you can have a high IQ there, but if he doesn't have any street knowledge. He doesn't have any street sense there, and that's what really screws him up. Given the fact that his name is Zen Shapiro, I guess he's a big fan of Ben Shapiro. He certainly doesn't have his know-how as him, so whatever. I mean, it's like John Bravo there, not in terms of knowledge or so forth. You have the cartoon character Johnny Bravo, so I'm assuming that his name being John Bravo is a homage to the, Johnny Bravo cartoons. Yes, Wally, if I was going to go and eat with Vegan Gains, I would have a vegan meal there. If I had when I've had vegans over my house or friends, and I would fix a vegan meal there. If I'm inviting a Muslim over, I would make sure the meal would be halal. Or if I had a Jewish friend over there, I would make sure that it's kosher. It's very disrespectful not to respect someone's dietary habits here. So if Vegan Gains did come over, I would fix a vegan meal for them there. There's no reason I would go and serve meat there. It's disrespectful. Robert, you can have a high IQ, but if you try to use the high IQ to someone that's bigger than meaner than you, you'll still get your ass kicked there. USC got destroyed. Yeah, I'll definitely check out the highlights here. That's why I got the NFL streaming app, and also have the ESPN Plus streaming app. Robert, Street Sense makes all the difference, trust me. Because it helps you have the know-how to conduct yourself, not only on the streets, but also in business there as well. Well, Lenny is somewhat right there. It's good to be a dreamer in certain cases there. And like I said, I say this as far as to somewhat right. Delusions of grandeur can also mean dreaming of things, because a lot of times people, when they dream it, they do it there. So there's always a somewhat positive type thing. And like I said, definitely delusions of grandeur would definitely be better than negative thoughts here. You always want to live life as positive as possible. It doesn't mean you're going to have days to where you're super negative, you're in a bad mood, you're in a funk and everything like that. I have days like that too. It's just part of life, people. What Big Lenny said, there's not a right or wrong answer to that. There really isn't. Who's Chris Chan? I have no clue who that is. All right, we got 2 minutes left, folks. Get your questions in before we close out the midnight run. So 2 minutes left. If y'all also want to put some money in the collection plate, you can do that too. If not, get your questions in at least here. Well, Johnny, for me to offer a channel membership, I would feel that I would need to offer some exclusive content or so forth. You know, that would be something I would do down the line there. I don't think that at this point in time, because I don't have a specific game plan for a channel membership, that it would be feasible for me to do something like that at this present time. Okay, I'll look them up there. No, I definitely never purchased one of those Piana jugs there. If I wanted a milk jug, I would just buy a jug of milk for $2 and just pour it out and wash it. And then fill it up with whatever pre-workout drink or so forth. But, you know, I saw people coming into the gym back in the day with those 5% jugs, and I'm like, what are they doing, you know? Elon Musk is from a wealthy family there, so he started out with millions. But he has to have good street sense and a high IQ, because he turned that million into billions. You know. But even if he started at zero with his intelligence, he would be a multi-millionaire anyway. Some people just have that ability to, you know, just get it right, you know. And you can respect that, you know. But folks, it is midnight. You know, I got to go check the scores from the USC game. So again, as always, I want to thank you again for joining me for the midnight run. And to close things out, let's see what we can do here. How should I close this out here? Oh, we're not done with the night yet there, folks. Gonna run a little bit, 5 minutes. Let's kick it out, y'all. It's the weekend, baby. Woo! Come on, folks, it's the weekend. Good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Midnight Run. We'll see you next time.